Welcome to Dealmakers Chronicles with the Hassan brothers. I am Farouk. I have my co-host, my partner, my brother, Farkad. And today we have a special guest, Mr. David Fernandez. He's been absolutely killing it, focusing on new development. Great to have you on, David.
Happy to be here. I'm
Pleasure
excited.
seeing, pleasure seeing you, man. Thank you for coming on.
Pleasure seeing you as well. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. So, all right, David. So, quick question, right? I want to hear full, quick version. If somebody met you at a cigar shop and they asked, "Who is David Fernandez?" What do you answer?
I mean, that's going to depend a little bit. So if they met me after one drink, I'm one person. If they met me after three, I'm another. I think that I would probably say I'm a entrepreneur, risk taker that specializes in real estate. I love what I do. I'm a top producing broker in New York. Have a real estate team that specializes in new developments. But I'm also at heart a entrepreneur who likes to try new things. I've been a cafe owner. I've been a construction owner, and I've dabbled in other businesses that I'm currently involved in. So I'm definitely well-rounded when it comes to that. But at the end of the day, my bread and butter has been real estate, and I've focused in New York sales and new dev.
That's amazing. And so one of the things you mentioned is that you did a lot of other things, right? You were a cafe owner. One other thing that we know about you is you have a construction background, right? So how'd you go from, for example, construction to broker multi-million dollar deals? That's not exactly the typical path, but you're killing it at it. So tell us how that journey came to where you are now.
So yeah, I was in construction for like a good 6 years. I worked in the trenches. A lot of people don't know that about me. I specialized in concrete superstructure work, foundation work. I operated an excavator for many years. So I learned the business from the ground. I learned the ins and outs of what construction's about. And at the time when I was in construction, I felt like there was a purpose for me. I got a lot of gratification from it. But when I saw how difficult it was going to be to actually make real money and have the success I wanted, I decided to pivot. But I didn't pivot right away to real estate. That's when I went into the restaurant business. I opened a cafe in Carroll Gardens and then opened a second location in Chelsea, which failed miserably. But at the end of the day, it was a huge learning curve, and I think that's the push that I needed to go into sales. I was struggling as a owner, and I decided to utilize my location in Brooklyn since I was already established. I had it for 5 years, but at the time when I got into sales, I was about 2.5, 3 years in, and I utilized that location to meet all my clients that I was paying for leads on Zillow. So it was like an automatic connection to the neighborhood, automatic understanding this is a serious person. Obviously, my employees would do a little extra, and sometimes my brother would be there because he was my manager. My mom would pop in and out. So it was a great place to establish like a concrete relationship with a client.
And how long ago was this? How many years ago did you have your restaurant?
I opened that location in 2012. Long
Okay.
time. Yeah.
So a long time, and you've probably had it for a year or two. You hosted events there, and then you said, okay, it's not working out too much. I don't really need it. Do you have a substitute now? Do you have a special place in the city where you take them? Maybe not your place, but some kind of a cigar lounge or some kind of an exclusive place you take your clients to kind of entertain them well. Do you have a new hub or?
Yeah, so depending what kind of client we're talking about, I haven't worked buyers in a long time. I specialize in investors and developer relationships. So we definitely like to go out to eat in, fine restaurants, fine dining. Cigar lounges are definitely probably top on my list. And I am a big hookah smoker, so that's something that we usually take on as well. But honestly, if it's a buyer, I would probably say I would probably meet them at a local coffee shop by the building they're interested in or the neighborhood that they're interested in to build some sort of rapport there. But these days, I'm definitely spending a lot of my time at cigar bars.
Amazing, amazing. And I know you mentioned a lot of things you did before. And I know with brokering, not for the successful agents that I've met, but for a lot of people, it's almost like a second path. They say to themselves, you know what, I'll do these three things and then I'll broker on the side. Do you think it's possible to achieve like your level of status in the business, being a jack of multiple trades, being a personal trainer, meeting your clients there and kind of bringing them over to buy homes? Is that possible at all in your experience?
There is no way you could be successful in this business part time. I've met a lot of guys that have their full-time jobs and are doing this part-time, and they're not successful in what they're doing. I mean, yes, they might be making some money, but there's a reason why they haven't left their full-time job. Number one, either they don't believe in themselves enough, and that's a big one. So they're not ready to take on that leap of faith or take that risk to lose their comfortable, stable job. And obviously, if they're not leaving that full-time job, it's because they're not making nowhere near as much money in real estate yet. So it's impossible. You can't have so many things going on a daily basis, especially when you have a job as an employee. So I'm a entrepreneur. I have multiple businesses. That in itself is hard to juggle, hard to do. But what I do have is a skill set that I've obviously built with years in business as someone who's very, very good at hiring talent and delegating. So you can get to that point, but if you're an employee for someone else, you don't have that flexibility to go and do this business right.
So one thing that you mentioned, right? Like you're focusing on new developments, investor relations. What one skill that you've learned through construction? Is there any skill that you learned in construction that helps you relate to developers and helps you build that connection or take them through the process? At which point do developers even contact you or speak with you? Take us through some of the things that, like, with your construction background, to how the process works with a new development that you're involved in.
So depending on the client, depends on, I guess, how I'm going to handle that particular relationship. I'm very good at understanding who I'm working with. I build trust very quickly. I build confidence in me with that relationship early on. So if it's a client that obviously has been doing this for a while, you kind of have to maneuver a little bit differently because they think they know everything, right? They think they're building the best thing since sliced bread, but at the end of the day, they might be doing things the right way for a market that they were used to, and then they go into a different market, and the buyer pool there is different. So they expect a certain design, a certain aesthetic, a certain brand for the project. I mean, there's so many different avenues you could take with the project. So some developers just don't understand that early on. They need to make a few mistakes before they trust who they're hiring, which is me as the broker. But I've had plenty of developers that will listen to 20% of what I say and then regret it years later. But then I have those developers that have no experience, just happen to come across some capital, or they were able to raise money or whatever it may be, and they have no idea what they're doing. They need someone to guide them, to hold their hand, basically. So I would say, in reality, I'm a broker who wears a developer hat, because I've taken projects where I'm involved not only from the ground, because I'll take a project pre-construction, but I'm there for space planning. I'm there for facade design, space, layouts in regards to the unit mix. And, that's also very important, right? Like the units need to flow. They need to be spacious. If they're going to be compact, they need to work. So there's a lot of things that a lot of developers don't realize is important. And besides that, with larger buildings today, especially after COVID, amenity packages are very important. So it's extremely important to understand what are the essentials. If you can't do too many, what it is that you need in order for a product to have success. And when I say success, every developer wants to make top dollar. So if you want to maximize that return, you got to understand what you're building and where. One thing I've learned, and recently, by the way, because I've always worked in markets that are not particularly prime markets. They might have been prime for at that time in my career, but they weren't really prime. So, like, I will say there is something to be said about location. I'm currently doing a project in Greenwich Village where I never in my life imagined selling a project pre-construction. I'm talking about all Zoom calls and floor plans and renderings. And it's a pretty sizable price point that we're selling these units at. We sold 50% almost in like 2 months. So that's unheard of. So there's so many things that you learn as a broker, and you learn with your clients along the way. But it's very important to understand as a developer that when you're putting together a team, that you trust them, that you're hiring them for their expertise, not because you need a broker to sell your building. A broker is not there to sell your building. They're there to do a lot of other things on a day-to-day to give you peace of mind. There's so much that goes into a project, from everything I said prior to also planning the actual sell of the building. There's a certain plan that you have to have for how you want to come out to the market. So if you come out with sales pre-construction, Then you have this like off market buzz where you create urgency and excitement. Then you come to the market with your broker community, and then you go to the market live where you have a whole brand campaign, PR campaign. So there's a lot of things you have to keep in mind when you're working with developers, especially depending on what size project it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, with developers, it's very common for a developer to start, let's just say, in Brooklyn, then branch out to Queens, and then go to the city, special areas in the city. And every area is very different, and that's where it really matters to hire a broker who understands the buyers and what they're looking for. Why would you say that? Why do you think that some developers choose not to listen to their brokers and some do? Is it the fact that their ego gets in the way? Is it the fact that they got success elsewhere and they think they know better than everybody else? Like, what separates the developers who really lean in towards their brokers and try to get the best advice, and others that say, you know what, I know better, but thank you?
I think every developer, in some way, shape, or form, their egos get in the way. I think if they're super successful and they've already had projects that have done well, it's going to be even harder to convince them why they should listen to you. At the end of the day, every client you have to manage differently. I always try to bring value to my clients. I always try to show them something they haven't seen before. I'm always thinking outside the box, because at the end of the day, this business is changing on a daily basis. So many things are happening, so many things are going on. If you're not being innovative into what you do, and you're not being creative and coming up with new ideas and new things, the developer is also going to get tired of you, right? So I think that going back to what the question you guys asked about me and my experience and how that can help a developer, at the end of the day, I have an eye for this business from multiple different ways, not just from construction, but I also have, a background in development. So I work with architects and designers and engineers. So I understand the process, right? So it's very easy to communicate with them, make them feel comfortable about what I bring to the table, what my team brings to the table. So I also have one of my partner who's part of Team Fernandez. He's a designer, architect, very, very successful in what he did in the past. And he came on with me. So he brings a lot of value as well. And I think it's just about making the client understand that if you follow these steps, we're going to have a very successful project, and you got to work with them the way they like to be worked with. I mean, not every client's the same.
So one thing that I could tell right away is your passion when it comes to development projects, right? So, I mean, you have the skill set to be able to do luxury resales, flipping houses, Airbnb arbitrage, multiple other things. But what is it about the ground up development sale process that you love, and it comes across from the camera and when wherever, anytime we're in person? What is it about this specific sector within real estate that, makes you tick, makes you want to do exactly this?
So listen, getting into new dev as a broker, especially when you're starting off, is very difficult, very hard. I was fortunate enough that I worked in construction, got to meet a lot of builders throughout that process, worked with one in particular. So I had a way in. So I think that also is what kind of intrigued me when I first got into sales. My first year in the business, by the way, I didn't do new development. I worked only buyers off Zillow leads. Second year, I was slowly transitioning and trying to go after developers, and finally locked one in. But they wanted to actually see a track record. They're like, "What do you know about sales? You're a construction guy." So there's a lot of challenges even then. But I would say for me, like just when I was in construction, I loved everything about it. I loved working with people. I loved going to the job site. I love to see the different stages and phases of the project. And I felt like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do what I'm passionate about. I want to be a part of something that I feel that is going to bring me joy. And real estate development just excites me. The whole process from helping a developer find the land that they're going to build on, and looking at the neighborhood and looking at comps and making them understand whether there's a good deal or not, pricing it out and creating the performer with them, from working with the architect and design team to figure out how many units we want in this building, what unit mix, and then working with the designer on the direction of the actual aesthetic of the building. I mean, that whole process is exciting because you're literally a part of something that you're creating with someone else, and you're a big part of that. At least I've been fortunate enough to be a part of that. Not every broker gets that opportunity for a developer to confine them so much, and I've just been very fortunate in that way. So I'll say I'm blessed in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every top broker that we know is usually passionate about a specific direction in real estate.
Yeah.
Farouk mentioned, the some brokers want to be jack of all trades, so they'll do leasing, brokering, sales, buyers, sellers, and then they don't specialize in anything.
Yeah.
And this is something that you focused on. You're killing it. You're excelling it. We're seeing you closing projects, selling out buildings, like you mentioned, that building 50% pre-sale before even finishing construction.
Before we even started construction.
Before even starting construction, you see, like, in the high interest rate environment that we're still in is, and that speaks for itself, right? They say, the proof is in the pudding.
Well, let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
It's all fun. You're putting up a beautiful project. It looks great. You get 50% of pre-sales. The developer's patting you in the back. Everybody's happy. Tell me a story where that wasn't the case, where maybe the developer brought you in too late, or the outlines of the floor plans were incorrectly structured, where they couldn't sell, and there was a lot of finger pointing, and then we should have done this and we should have done that. Like, did you ever take on a project where it was such a disaster? You're like, okay, I have this project. The developer is asking for me to sell it at this amount, and it's just impossible. How do I manage this person's expectations? Did you ever have a scenario like that?
So I've worked on 24 projects, and I've been successful. When I say successful, I've literally only been fired from one project. And that was the hardest lesson of my life for multiple reasons. And I can go into it if you want. But this particular developer, we were going after for a while, and we locked them in with a small project, guys, 4 units in Greenwood, very unique townhouse project. But we knew the pricing going into it, but we wanted to diversify because we were still kind of South Brooklyn brokers, haven't really gotten much, accessibility into other markets. So having this opportunity was like, wow, now we're going into a prime market. And in reality, wasn't really a prime market. It's close to a prime market, but it was a hard sale. Number one, it was across the street from a cemetery. Number two, the project itself had very, very awkward layouts. The design was too specific, where it just didn't make sense. And people, even though it was beautiful, it was an unrealistic place to live in. So it's like, if someone's going to buy, there needs to be a value. And the prices that we came to market, which, by the way, were probably about 25% more than what we told the developer you can get. Mm-hmm. So we just wanted the product, so we agreed to anything. But at the end of the day, the lesson there was like, we wasted a year of our time, didn't sell one apartment. He wouldn't even negotiate. We brought him offers and he wouldn't take them. And just because we wanted to, add this to our portfolio, we took it on, and we wasted time, we wasted money, and we realized that if we as brokers don't agree that the product has potential to sell out, and we don't see the vision here, that we shouldn't just take on any project. So that was a big lesson, and I think that for that developer as well, because he struggled and he ended up hiring an agent where they slashed the prices to what we told them originally. They sold it, they make their money, and they moved on. And we ended up losing the project and getting my first L in the business.
Do you ever come across scenarios where your honesty gets you in trouble, to where the developer is like, oh, you know what, you think you could get me 1,800 a foot? This other guy's saying 2,100, so I'm gonna put 2,100 a foot into my underwriting, and I'm gonna make the deal work. Sorry, David, I'm gonna hire this other guy.
That's a great question. So the last, I think, 12 to 14 months, I pitched about 10 projects. I've lost 8 out of the 10. And the reason for that is because I am a very aggressive broker. I know what I'm about. I know what I bring to the table. I don't like to overpromise. I'm very direct with my clients. And honestly, it's kind of hurt me in recent years, because market's been very tough. Developers have been struggling ever since COVID happened. So they don't want to hear negativity. They don't want to hear that they can't get more for their project. They don't want to hear any of that. So I've gone to pitches where I would just say, hey, this is the prices. If we were to sell today, this is what you're going to get. And they would be like, but no, we're coming to the market in 2 years. I'm like, I don't know what the market's going to be in 2 years. If we come to the market today, this is what you're going to get. And they don't like that approach. And even my previous clients started not liking that approach, because there were a lot of brokers coming after them, and they never gave them an opportunity, because David Fernandez has been successful. Why change what's working? But eventually, the dollars are going to make a difference. And I had some clients that I worked with for many, many years cheat on me, as I call it, and go with another broker. And, listen, are they having success? Not more than what I could have offered them. I think that I bring a lot of value to my clients, and some of them are already starting to come around. I just locked in a new project from a client that kind of went with someone else, is coming back. Recently pitched another project with another client who cheated on me, and it's something to be said. But what I have learned from those losses, because losing a pitch is losing a project, and I'm not building my pipeline, right? So what I have learned is that I do have to have a different approach with clients, no matter who they are, because sometimes I do feel comfortable. I know this person, he knows what I'm about, he knows who I am, and I might be a little bit too much. So I've learned to, one, listen more instead of over speaking. Two, I've learned to understand that even though I feel the price point could be this, give them a scenario where it can be another. So I now come into pitches with lows and highs. So if the market all of a sudden picks up, this is what we can accomplish. And I also come in with ideas. So I'll take the architectural floor plans. I'll study them. I'll make recommendations for changes, whether it's layout changes or combining units or changing the amenity package. Where I'll go, hey, listen, right now you're at $1,500 a foot, but if you make these changes, we're at $1,800 a foot. So I bring more value now. I'm also a big believer in investing in my team and myself. So every pitch that we come in with, we do make a small investment to show value as well.
Oh, very nice. You don't really get that kind of commitment from brokers oftentimes. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, you were even there was a project that we came close to working together, and the presentation that you sent over was well beyond what most brokers do, right? So, like you said, you do put that investment and time into that pitch and getting it done. And for example, for us, we would rather work with somebody who tells us straight. This is the worst case scenario. This is what I think we can get, as opposed to overpromise, because overpromising could get you into a lot of trouble as a developer when you have that construction loan due. Those monthly interest payments coming in a high rate environment, that's when you see developers going to default.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on a product right now where the developer, she wanted to show better numbers for the bank, and at the end of the day, we could not deliver, and it obviously hurt her. But at the end of the day, listen, developers are all going to make the decisions and go about their products the way they want. But there is something to be said about, just being careful about certain markets, and especially when you have high interest rates, you kind of have to be more realistic with certain markets. We're not in a boom right now. We're in a bit of a recession, as they call it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing you mentioned kind of caught is having a thick skin, right? Like you work with a developer and they cheat on you with a different broker on a new project, doesn't go as well, but they come back to you and you're willing to work with them, right? Having that thick skin. Is it something that you do daily with your mindset, or whether it's meditation or journaling or anything like that, that helps you go through these ups and downs of relationships that are high intense, high volume, a lot of money every day that you're dealing with, relationships that you're either building, losing, negotiating? What are some of the things that you focus on yourself? Like you mentioned, you invest a lot into your team. Is there anything that you do specifically with your team or yourself that keeps you going through the ups and downs of your industry?
So I will say, listen, before I go into that, I will say it definitely is difficult to lose a client. But I would say it's even harder to lose a client that either you've built a relationship with after a number of years of working with them. You almost feel like they're family, or actually working with someone that's a friend, and working with them on their projects have given you even a closer bond. So losing products like that. And I've also, this is another lesson I learned, right? Like I did not take it well, the first product I lost, not because I couldn't sell the previous one, just because partners had disagreements about working with me, and they decided they wanted to go with someone else. And I flipped out. Like I was not having it. I gave them my 2 cents, which I realize now was very mature of me. But, listen, at the end of the day, every day as an individual, you have to grow and you have to learn from your mistakes. I go into every morning, I wake up, hit the gym. And this is, by the way, more of a recent routine. But in general, I think overall, my whole career, I'm super optimistic. I'm extremely positive person. I'm very ambitious and driven by success. There was a time in my life where money drove me, and I realized that was also not good. So when you say about changing your mindset, I definitely went through that. I definitely committed myself to improve myself and become a better version of who I was. Where I did take on more spiritual things, where I did an ayahuasca retreat to tap into myself a little bit more and explore who I am and what I'm about. I went into yoga retreats. I started going to the gym. I lost 50 pounds in the last 2.5 years. I've been maintaining it. So I think for now, in my day-to-day now, the way I stay focused and keep that mindset right is going to the gym, working out, playing pickleball, playing basketball, just staying active, kind of losing yourself in those things, right? So you can kind of give your head your brain a break, because you're always,
Correct.
when you're an entrepreneur, when you're someone that has a very high drive, and you're obviously looking to grow on a day-to-day, it's just like your motors they never slow down. They're always going. So it's nice to have an escape. And one thing I couldn't do in the past, which I've been doing more and more recently, is yoga. I didn't have the patience for it for a long time, but now I get such gratification from it. So I do try to do at least one class a week, just to like zone out and commit myself to a quiet room where I can do the proper stretching and just kind of dive into myself, right? Like just be one in that moment with me. And also vinyasa is more of like a long stretching, almost like a meditation type of thing that I do as well, which I love. And those are things that I was never interested before. And by the way, I think ayahuasca did that for me. I have a different connection with nature. I have a different connection with myself, with God. So I think that's part of also my path to growth these recent years.
Where did you get your ceremony done? Was it in New York or you went somewhere for ayahuasca?
I went to Costa Rica, Sugar Beach. I did a 7-day ceremony. 7-day retreat, which was 4 ceremonies in that week.
And that was your first time doing it, and you went all in.
I went all in.
You seem like a person who goes all in, but
I
wow,
was
7 days, that's a lot
reborn,
of
man.
commitment.
I was reborn.
So you recommend everybody does that, or is it for
I
people in a
don't
specific place in
recommend
life?
I don't recommend for everyone to do it, because people have some serious demons they're fighting, and I think that you have to be completely ready for that experience, like completely ready to commit, because it could you could confront a lot of things that you might not be ready for. So I would say it's for someone who has lived and has had many experiences and understand that failure is part of life, and those are lessons that you can never get anywhere but by doing things. So if someone has that mentality where they look at every situation as an opportunity and as a way of growing as an individual or as a business owner or whatever, then I would say that's for that type of person. It's not for everybody.
The reason I asked is because I know so many of my friends who did it, so many real estate professionals, people who are in private equity who we know of. And I've never met a single person who had something bad to say about it. Never once. It was always some kind of a profound experience. It's more of, you go there for one reason and you get, with purpose, and you get shown something else, something what you need more than what you think you want to see.
Yeah, I was reborn in that experience. I faced things that I thought I moved on from, things that I put into my subconscious. I confronted a lot of things, a lot of demons. I was, after that experience, I was able to look myself in the mirror and be honest with myself and honestly make the changes that I needed to make in order to be the person I wanted to be in life. So I would say just constantly growing and investing in yourself is the way that you're going to optimize being at a level that I'm at. Obviously, I've had a lot of success. I've also had a lot of situations where I've lost money and I've made bad choices or whatever. But if you're constantly investing in yourself and you're putting yourself out there, whether it's for personal things or even business, I've invested a lot of money in coaching, mentoring, seminars, conventions, team building. So, I get my team involved in a lot of the things that I do. Not all of them are on board with it, but the team.
Are you the shaman of the office, or you're not on that level yet?
I'm not in that level yet, but I definitely feel like I motivate the team. Like, listen, we have a very different dynamic in the way we operate. I'm the one that goes out and gets the business and pitches developers and builds those relationships. I bring the business home. My team runs the day-to-day for me. So we have a very unique relationship in that regard, but I keep everybody motivated. We have our team, weekly team meetings. Everyone on my team is fit. So we all make sure that we're going to the gym, taking care of ourselves, because you can't take care of your clients if you don't feel good about you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, listening to you, you could tell you're a true leader, right? That's one of the things that we always look out for is a person who can lead, right? You could put together people in the same room and say that that's a team, but without that one person paving the way, breaking down barriers and leading them, sometimes, like you said, doing things and teaching them that they don't even want to because you know
Yeah.
that what's best for them, and then they come out of the tunnel a better person, a better teammate, a better professional, right? So at the end of the day in our business, it's about making money, but like you said, it's if you focus on just making money, you're gonna lose yourself. You're gonna lose yourself, and the ups and downs, they're gonna burn you out. You're gonna be out within 2, 3 years, and you never want to come back to this industry ever again.
Not only get burnt out, but you just, when you don't respect money and you're just going after it for all the wrong reasons, it doesn't fulfill you, man. It doesn't bring you happiness. And I've been there. I've made a lot of money, and there's been moments in my life where I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, this can't be it. And I chased money for a long time. I chased success for a long time. But it took a lot of events in my life for things to happen for me to realize that money wasn't important. Makes life easier, but there's more to that. And when you realize that, and you start working towards other things that are positive in your life, like focusing on yourself, focusing on family. Like my team is like my family, so I'm always constantly trying to work with them and grow with them. And I think when you focus on things like that, the money's just a bonus. It brings a lot of joy as well, but not the way going out to dinner with your family or friends and really just enjoying those type of moments and just being grateful. At the end of the day, being grateful.
And now that you've made a lot of money, you've had profound experiences, it seems like you kind of switch gears on where you are in your life. You're still doing extremely well. At this point, how do you measure success? What does success look like for you?
Listen, success is getting up every day excited for what you're going to do, whether you're going to make $1 or not. It's just like really just doing what you love. I think health is so important, and I feel like more people need to focus on eating healthy, being healthy, feeling good. I think that when you're taking care of yourself as an individual and constantly looking to become that better version of yourself and investing in yourself in all the right ways, everything around you is always going to feel better. You're going to be truly happy with your life, and I think that's success. At the end of the day, you're going to meet a lot of people with a lot more money than you. You can't chase that. You're going to meet a lot of people that are smarter than you. You just got to find what makes you and what makes you happy. And if you can dive into that and really look for that and go into that journey, you're going to be successful in your own way, whether you have a lot of money or you don't. And that's what I've really come to understand and realize in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. I think waking up every day with a smile, and then doing what you love is one of the ultimate dreams for anybody.
I'll tell you something, and I think there's a lot of people out there that know me, and you hear things here and there. And the biggest thing I've always heard from people is, why is this guy so fucking happy? And I
Yeah.
and I'm always like, why do they care? So I think that there is something to be said about being just a positive, happy person. If you're genuine with yourself and genuine with everybody around you, people will see the real you. And if they love you, great. If they don't, who cares?
No,
Would you say
absolutely. Like you built a killer network, and I think that that positivity is contagious. And speaking of network, right, and the people and the connections you've made, what's the weirdest place, the most unexpected place that you came to or were in where you made a connection with a developer, a buyer, or or anybody in the industry?
So the I wouldn't say weirdest, but a random connection that I never imagined was in Mykonos about 2 years ago.
Okay.
We're partying like crazy. I'm with you guys know all my friends are Russian. So we're partying with a big group of Russians, and then another group of Russians joins us, and and then we're just like 80 random people in Mykonos, and we're partying and popping bottles or whatever. And this guy, he's probably like 10 years older than me. He just has this great energy, and I'm feeding off his energy. He's feeding off my energy. We start hugging and we start drinking, and like my best friend. I just met the guy, and then I thought, that's it. I'll never talk to this guy again. I'll never see him again. Next day, I see him at dinner. We talk. He asked me what I'm about, what I'm doing. And, funny enough, he's like, listen, take my information, follow me on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Would love to connect with you. Have no idea who this guy is. I don't even know what he's about. Fast forward like 3 weeks after that, I'm back in New York. He calls me up, says, hey, I'm looking to buy a place for my son. My budget's $2 million, all cash. Let's go. And that relationship grew into more, obviously, but he's a guy that I met in Mykonos randomly. He's probably worth like $300-400 million, and he's a great client.
And were you always like that? Were you always a social butterfly? Because I know, there's times we went out together.
Yeah.
And we go inside of a place, and I see you, look away, I look around, I try to see you again, and then you're somewhere else, meeting friends, meeting people, talking to people. By the time we leave the place, it seems like you know everybody there. Were you always like that? Because that's very impressive. And I think in the business that you're in, like you said, for your team, you bring in business, to be a social butterfly is a huge bonus. And I think a lot of people in brokering world struggle with that. They maybe label themselves as introverts. They can't get in front of people. They have ideas. They're phenomenal at what they do, but they just can't get in front of people. You seem like you have no problem with that. Were you always like that?
So I definitely had this from out of the womb. I was always like outgoing, charismatic. But people like to say I bring a light to the room. I feel very, very comfortable talking to people, getting to know people, and just being myself, to be honest with you. I will say though, there was a time where I lost that light. When I got into the cafe business and I had to close the Chelsea location, where I lost about $450,000 in 6 months. That brought some depression and anxiety that I did not expect. It also made me realize that I'm not unstoppable, that I can't fail, and things can go wrong. So I lost that light for a minute, and honestly, I had to like work on me to get that light back. But I will say, it almost for many years it was a facade, it was an act, because I was truly not 100% happy with myself. And even though that's a natural thing for me to be charismatic and outgoing and exciting, there was a time where I didn't really feel that way. So I think, yes, I've been this way my whole life, but there are moments in your life where that light, that person that you are, can be interrupted in a sense, whether it's because of your relationship with someone, because of financial things, because of failure, maybe not knowing how to handle certain things. I lost that confidence, because I've always been extremely confident, but I definitely got that back when I started working out and I started feeling better about myself. And ayahuasca definitely was like a restart. I don't know what ayahuasca did, man, but it's like, it like reset my mind, reset everything. So yes, I've always been this way. It comes naturally to me. I love life. I love people. Unfortunately, the one thing I've learned though about being the way I am, a lot of people out there take advantage of me, and I'm a very loyal person, and I've been shit on too many times, unfortunately. I think I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to share this light with just anyone. I'm very, very particular and picky about who I let in at this point. And I used to have 1,000 friends. Now, maybe a handful. And I do meet people like yourselves where obviously we're getting to know each other. We're going out here and there, but it's very, very rare to meet good people, unfortunately. And that's one thing I realized.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the older you get, the more you realize that. Like, your circle gets smaller because you get a little bit wiser and you become more aware about, like you mentioned, some people who do take advantage of you, who dim the light that you were trying to build and keep that fire going.
You said it exactly the way I was thinking, and dim that light.
So next time you need to summarize anything into a paragraph instead of ChatGPT, you know who to call. So let me ask you the following: like, in terms of, New York City is a very unique place when it comes to real estate, and there's always trends, whether it's micro units or ultra luxury. What is one trend that you've seen over the last couple of years, 3 years, that you just absolutely hate and you would want to press that delete button if you had one at your fingertips?
Trend like with the way the developments are going, or trends about the way people feel about agents? What exactly?
So either or, right? So like you said, like the way people feel about agents, right? Like how people view agents, whether it's, the way Zillow is set up, where, you have a buyer who looks at a Zestimate and he thinks that if that Zestimate is X amount and you're selling a property for a different amount, it's like, no, I'm going to stay with a Zillow estimate. Or as developers who are trying to pack as many units into one small lot and, any trend, whether it's from the development side or the buyer side, that you just absolutely would love to get rid of and reset to back to the old days?
I definitely think the trend I think is slowly changing, but for some reason there's still markets that are doing it, and these compact units for sure are a problem. People think that they're gonna get their dollar. Now, when it first started happening, and it was something that was kind of unique, and people were coming into the market saying it's affordable luxury because you can buy into a new construction building, but you're buying at a high price per foot because they're compact units. I think after COVID, the idea of that changed drastically. So I don't think those type of products make sense the way they did. Obviously, there's investors out there that are going to invest in these type of buildings because they're utilizing them as, ways to have rental income or whatever, Airbnb, whatever. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think that the trends of these small, compact buildings, buildings that have nothing exciting about them, is also a trend that I think needs to go away. Like developers coming in and thinking they could build a cookie cutter is no longer working, and they need to stop, because there a lot of developers are unfortunately getting into this business building cheap and then realizing they can't sell for the market comps because they have a shitty product. So those are things that I want to see go away. When it comes to real estate agents, I mean, listen, there's a lot of things being said right now about, buyer agents collecting their fees and all this stuff about agents in general, that, all we do is push doors and mention a kitchen or a bathroom or whatever. But as you can see, the way I talk about my business and the way I am about what I do, there's a lot more that goes into it. And agents work really, really hard to get paid, to make money, whether the sale seems easy or not. Some of these agents are working clients 6 months or a year before they get a paycheck. So if you really dive into it, it's not an easy job. Unfortunately, majority of agents are not successful. They get by. They week to week, month to month, whatever it is. But it's very few that are ultra successful. And I think the trend of agents coming into this thinking they're gonna make millions and millions of dollars also needs to change. Like there needs to be a better way to qualify people. And honestly, be honest. Agents that shouldn't be agents. They don't have the personality. They don't have the work ethic or the entrepreneur mentality to build their business, and they never will. And even if they're people that can't work for themselves and want to work for a team, you have to be a certain type of person to really have success in this business. So I think that I would like to see change, not just everyone being given a license or being welcome into a brokerage.
Yeah, I think if you look at real estate as a whole, like a real estate brokering, it's the only career I can think of where you can go on Netflix, on YouTube, and you can see this lavish lifestyle, touring these $100 million homes and seeing these absolutely ridiculous commission checks. And people oftentimes fail to see everything else that came before it. The nurturing, the speaking to the client for 10, 12 years before you even get a shot at a listing like that. So I think there's a lot of misconception behind how difficult it is to succeed in this business. I think that's why you see people throw themselves into this. It looks fancy, it looks gorgeous. You're talking to the rich people. You're going to the touring incredible, beautiful properties that you may never be able to live in yourself. You're at least there, and you see them, and you're able to sell them, and at least you get this false perception of success. That's why I think a lot of
100%.
people lean towards being realtors.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story actually. So when I was in the business, I was doing well, but like, I wasn't like a top producing agent yet. I met Ryan Serhant at an event, and but I'm with him now. So back then I used to like laugh. I used to be like, who's this joke? Who's this guy on TV? He's a character. I can't even take him serious. And I felt that way for a long time. And then he tried to recruit me when he was at Nest Seekers to come work with him, but just didn't make sense at the time. And then eventually, fast forward, he opens his own brokerage, and the opportunity presents itself, and now I'm at Serhant. But I didn't really know him, right? I took a picture with him back in the day, and I realized, oh my God, I was like fat, and he was like in shape and great smile, great skin. And I'm like, damn. And I look at fast forward now, and I respect him so much because he has an incredible work ethic that most people don't understand. Like, the reason he's successful is because his mindset and his clarity to what he needs to do on a day-to-day is clear as it could be. He has a regimen that he does not break. He gets up at 4:30. He's at the gym at 5. He's home by 5:30. He's on the road by 6 a.m. The guy's an animal. And there's days where he could be in New York, Florida, Connecticut, and back in New York in one day. And his work ethic is insane. And the other thing about him is, because we talked about this before, it's very hard for someone to talk to people and be confident and whatever. Like, I'm a natural extrovert. Like, that's me. That's who I am. Ryan is not. He's someone who's an introvert who knows how to turn on a switch and become this amazing real estate mogul, right? This broker that everyone wants to be at this point. And in person, like on a one-on-one, he's a completely different guy, very mellow, chill, laid back. So it's kind of crazy to see how he does things, and it's very impressive. So I give him a lot of credit, because not everybody on TV is what they say they are. Not everybody on TV is knowledgeable or has the proper the experience that requires for you to make that big money. A lot of it is smoke and mirrors, but he's someone that is exactly what TV showed in the past, and I realize now today that there's a reason for it. It just didn't happen because of the show he was on for many years.
Yeah, absolutely. And the shop that you're at right now with Serhant, right? One thing that we've noticed is that market trends are changing, right? And Serhant was able to accept them instead of fight them. So AI adoption is TikTok. How would you say for you and your team, how are you guys able to adapt to all the market trends that are changing so quickly and rapidly in your industry?
So I think in general, we're very fortunate to have someone that's a forward thinker. The owner of our company, Ryan, he's always been someone to kind of do things outside of the box and be a little bit unorthodox with the way he approached things. So I think that with the mentality of that and the way he has built departments in the company, it allows us all to kind of be creative and think and have a forward thinking mentality. So I think that having the support of his marketing team, having the support of his technology team at this point allows us to grow as individuals, as teams in this industry. Now, do I utilize everything that he offers? No. Should I probably utilize more of it? Yes. Listen, when you're in this business and you're used to doing things a certain way, you kind of fall into that sometimes. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be where I am if I wasn't a forward-thinking person, if I wasn't constantly reinventing myself and being innovative. So I think that it doesn't matter what comes and what new things happen. You have to change, and if you don't, you're gonna get left behind. It's very simple.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We see some of the legacy brands fall behind. And you guys are grabbing new markets. We heard last week you guys opened up an office in Arizona, so making that West Coast move. So embracing the changes, embracing the AI. There's a lot of fear out there for people. Okay, AI is coming for my job. Is it going to replace agents? Is it going to replace this? But you guys accepted it. You're incorporating it and only getting better and not being replaced. So you're using it almost as an advantage, an extra tool in your belt to help your clients.
It's definitely a tool. If you're not using ChatGPT today, you're crazy. And there's definitely other softwares and other programs out there that are gonna allow you to run your business better and more efficiently. I have another business. It's a title company where we're investing money right now in having an AI-powered website with a chat box. We also have our own intellectual property where we're going to have our software engaged with AI as well. And, there's so many different things that make you understand that the world is going in a different direction, and you have to basically adapt. So I think that in my business, there's things that I can utilize for my advantage. I would like to see AI create presentations the way Ryan's currently pitching it to us. So I want to see how that's going to work in the future. I think AI also is going to make life easier in regards to client relations and servicing. Because right now that's what Ryan's working on to make sure that we can literally have AI do follow-ups, stay connected, do comp reports on itself, forward any new listings that come to market. So all this stuff is exciting and can make our lives very easy and allow us to have more flexibility, to be honest with you, have a better quality of life. And I think that's what he's focusing on as well, that no one talks about.
Do top brokers ever get together in the room from different companies? You from Serhant, somebody from Compass, somebody from Corcoran, and you kind of run ideas off of each other, or this is what we're doing, this is what you're doing, kind of keeping an open mind. Okay, maybe there's a better opportunity elsewhere. Are brokers always open-minded to jumping ship, or is it a lot of loyalty, or it really depends on the person themselves?
No, I think there's more loyalty than you would think. I think that sometimes you get as a top producing broker, I was convinced to go to a different firm in the past for the wrong reasons, and I regretted it. But I think as someone that understands business, understands how important relationships are. Most of us stay put for a reason. Obviously, if the brokerage or the broker or whoever is not giving you what you need to continue growing and to continue servicing your clients the way you want, that's when you really make a change. But there's been masterminds with in private rooms with top producing brokers to discuss market trends and discuss things that are happening and what are you doing, what should we not be doing, and things like that. So that definitely happens. Not as much as it used to. I think social media and everything being so easily accessible has kind of changed that dynamic a little bit. But yeah, we definitely see a lot of that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like there's a lot of misconceptions about the industry, right? You think that brokers jump from one shop to another, but like you mentioned, the top brokers usually are loyal and build those brands and teams within the name of the shop. For you personally, whenever you sell out a building or you close a big deal, we know you as a person who knows the great restaurants, knows good food, drinks, cigars, a savant when it comes to that. What is something that Mr. David Fernandez does for himself after a big close, a sellout? Is there a go-to drink? Is there a go-to cigar? Or something that you do to celebrate that?
I definitely like to celebrate with tequila.
Mm-hmm.
A Claudio Azul with an orange on the rocks. I like music. I like to feel alive. I want that energy, high energy. Honestly, I've celebrated with cigars before, but like really celebrate with a cigar would be on a yacht in Miami with a drink, a tequila drink on the side, whatever. So I think it just depends on the scenario, right? So I think tequila is definitely my go-to.
Okay, absolutely. We gotta, work on that sponsorship. You gotta start bringing, a bottle of Clase Azul for every client that closes with you. So they better, cut you a check for that sponsorship. So now, like, let's fast forward 10 years, right? We spoke about your journey and where you are now, and you're in an amazing place mentally, physically, with your success. Fast forward 10 years for you, your team, just Team Fernandez. Where do you want to be? Is it putting your name on buildings that are skyscrapers? Is it not just doing New York City, but going outside of New York City and tackling other markets? What is the biggest thing that you would love to have seen achieve in the next 10 years?
So I'm already a small-time developer. I'm building my first ground-up development in Hackensack, New Jersey. It's going to be 6 townhomes. So I definitely want to go in that direction more. I want to be an established developer in 10 years. I would like, if possible, the opportunity to at some point be able to raise enough capital where I can put together the right project, present the right performa, raise the capital to take on partnerships with developers, present the project and take on a partnership where not only do I have a role as the broker on the project, but also as a partner. I think that's probably the direction I would like to take in the future. I don't just want to be an agent. I don't want to be a salesperson for the rest of my life. I have a passion for real estate. I have a passion for development, and I could definitely see myself in those shoes. Obviously, don't want to lose what made me who I am, and obviously my team doesn't have the same aspirations as me, so they're going to be around. So I think if I can balance it with having my own products going on and feeding the team with that as well, that would be the ideal place to be.
Yeah, that's something that's very admirable, and it's a lot of risk on your part, right? Going
Yeah.
from something that you are great at, you have built a strong reputation in, and going into development, even though you've been so close hand in hand with development, right? So for you, it's something that's not completely new just because A, you have that construction background, and B, you've been working with developers for a decade or maybe even more at this point, right?
The crazy part is that I've been already in like 5 projects, like smaller projects, like luxury conversions or whatever. And I've had success in some, and I've actually lost money in some, especially with this crazy market that we're in. But
Right.
the construction part of it doesn't scare me at all. Like, I feel very comfortable with that part of it. What was a big surprise was that a developer's shoes are very, very different. You're worrying about putting all the pieces together, right? The land acquisition and figuring out how to get money for that, designing the property, right? Then going for approvals. Sometimes you have challenges in between, whether you got to stand in front of a committee and get a variance approved. Sometimes you have an issue because DEP changed their guidelines, whatever. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong when you buy something and you can't foresee every little thing. So, even as calculated as it is to buy into a potential development, there's so many moving parts, and that's probably the part I was not ready for. I made a lot of mistakes with those surprises and unforeseen things as a developer that I didn't realize were going to be a part of the overall project and costs. And then, listen, there's other things that obviously happen as well. Construction financing can sometimes be difficult because sometimes you're building something that's a speculative project and the prices might not be in the current market, but you really believe in the project. So you got to now raise money from other sources, and that's going to affect the bottom line. And sometimes you don't even sell the project quick enough, and you're paying the bank more than you thought, so that eats into your profits. I mean, there's so many things that have gone wrong for me that make me realize that this is way more to it than what I originally anticipated. But even with all that said, I fucking love it.
Yeah, and unfortunately with things like these, like you can't, even though it sounds ideal to learn off of other people's mistakes, when you get in the trenches and actually start to develop yourself, like the lessons you learn on your own projects and your own mistakes are significantly more valuable than a story somebody else told you. When you see a problem, when you resolve it yourself, it builds a different layer of thick skin. It gets you ready for any new project. And if anybody can do it, like knowing you for years now, your personality, your network, your grit, I have no doubt that you'll be extremely successful at it.
Yes. And I'll tell you one thing, though. One thing I also didn't realize was that I used to never understand why these developers would complain about brokers making more money than them. I finally
Maybe we'll cut that
understand.
out. We'll cut that part out.
I finally learned what that meant. I had a project where I actually lost $59,000, but I wrote a check for $85,000 for the broker who represented my project. That hurt. And now I understand why developers sometimes say, "You guys make more money than us. Stop complaining. I don't want to hear it."
It's funny you mentioned that. A lot of times that is the case, and a lot of people don't realize that is that not every project is a home run. On the projects that you're struggling in, broker does make more money because, like you said, there could be a project that you actually negative on. But I would think this secondary path that you're doing with development is helping you tremendously in your current business with Team Fernandez, because you're learning the other side by being on the other side, and those lessons are invaluable in terms of like even being able to relate to a developer as you're going through the process.
So I feel that way. I have had conversations with clients of mine that feel that it's a distraction, feel that I'm going in a path that is not in line with what I am about. I feel the way you just said it is exactly how I feel about what I'm doing. But unfortunately, some developers do feel like you need to focus on what it is that you've been successful at and what you're good at. Basically, they want me to focus on their projects only and not have anything else going on because they're greedy and selfish and whatever. But that's okay, and I'm perfectly fine saying this, by the way. So don't think anything of it. I think at the end of the day, if I as an individual and as a business owner, right? If I have responsibilities, those are my responsibilities. If I want to share them with you, I will. But if I don't, I don't. But I'm an open book, right? So I've shared probably too much. But at the end of the day, there are developers that just want you to focus on what it is that you do, and they don't want to hear everything else. So I think it could hurt me in some ways in the future with some people. Honestly, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm good at. I know the strong support system that I have in New York. Like, my team allows me to have the flexibility to do these things. If I didn't have them, then David Fernandez would have to be present, 24/7. But because I have such a great team that at this point, I don't even need to delegate. At this point, they know exactly what they need to do. They all get up every morning knowing exactly what has to happen. And that allows me to do what I'm doing on the side, which I think is a great compliment to any developer because I'm in their shoes. I understand them completely. And I think I bring tremendous value because of it. And besides my previous experiences, I'm just the overall package in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. From the developer standpoint, I think it's you. The word used is a little selfish, right? Because we as developers and other developers have that ego. It's like, okay, if I want David, I love David. I want him waking up, eating, sleeping, my project, and my project better be the only project that he does. You know what I mean? You better not take any other developers, especially any other developers that I don't like
Yeah,
as
there's
projects.
nothing more than like what hurts our ears when the broker says my other clients. It's like, what do you mean? Doesn't the world revolve around me? What do you mean by my other clients? You shouldn't be having like any other clients.
So a broker should never say my other clients to a developer. That's bad already,
Never.
right?
It's like saying my best friend. It's like
You
I thought
gotta
I was
make
your best
that
friend. No,
the
you
developer
can't
needs
do
to
that.
the developer needs to feel very special at all times. I think it's important for a developer to understand that we all have other goals in life, and we all have other things we want to do, and you got to make them feel confident and comfortable with the idea that even though I'm doing those things, I will not lose focus on your project, and I will not drop the ball in any way because of this, and that. And I think I have that figured out. It is very hard for people to do what I'm saying. That doesn't happen overnight. But I've been through so much, man. I've been through so many things at this point that I think I can not only afford to do these things, but I can allow myself to go for them. And whoever I work with needs to understand it. Bottom line. I think that this business is always going to be exciting and things are always going to be happening. And that's why I said in the future, why not work with one of my clients? Why not do a product with them? Why not figure out how to build that relationship even more? So I think it goes hand in hand. And I hope that with time I can convince some of them that it's a good idea, not a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think real estate, to make something work in real estate when it comes to development specifically, right? There's so many moving parts and partners that you have to make sure that are the best at what you do. And I think brokers are super crucial. And, from our experience speaking to you and the things you've been doing, a deal a lot of times is made or broken or doesn't happen at all based on that broker relationship, right? Like you said, like in that pitch initially, before where developer signs on the dotted line to purchase that land, if a broker lies to them and says, yeah, you're going to get $2,400 a foot, meanwhile, the market is $1,600 a foot.
Yeah.
You made a horrible situation for that developer, even though at that time, probably that's what he wanted to hear. But at the same time, brokers who are honest like yourself, they make deals happen. Is where there are situations where you will look at a deal and say, okay, you know what? Like, we shouldn't be building studios here.
Yep.
This is not the market for studios. This is a market for one bedrooms because people want to have a little bit bigger units. Or this is a market that's, a little bit away from the main centers of where people are working. Or families are going to want to be there. So you build 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. So a broker makes the deal. And I think you are that asset that every developer would want on his side. With that, is there something that you want to, leave off and say, like, working with David Fernandez, like, this is what you get, and those are non-negotiable, and this is how I'm going to fight for you? Things that you want people to know about you.
Listen, I think at the end of the day, I bring more than just experience. I bring excitement. I bring this outgoing, fun-loving personality that in my opinion, is part of the relationship, right? So besides doing business together, I don't look at this as only a business relationship. I look at it as a relationship where I get to know my client, we become friends, we go out for dinners, we celebrate together, we grow together. I'm all about working with people that genuinely want not only to succeed, but learn from each other. Like, I'm someone that has tremendous value, and the developers that I work with understand that. And I also learn from them. There's developers that I've taken on as mentors, there's developers that have come to me as someone they can bounce ideas off of. So I think that if you're looking for someone who you can, one, do business with in a high level, someone that you can feel confident that will deliver the kind of service that you need for your product to have the most success it can, and to be backed by someone who has all the, I would say, systems and processes in place, I'm definitely your guy. And if you want to have fun at the same time, I'm also your guy. I think that I bring a lot to the table. I bring a lot of value. And any developer that's looking for someone who has all the experience you need to build a successful project, I think should give me an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything you said, one other thing that I would add that you have is trust factor.
Thank you.
I believe a developer can trust you when it comes to providing comps and a vision in terms of the property. I think a lot of developers, especially new developers, don't realize is once the project is built, it's almost out of your hands, right?
Yeah.
So the person who is selling it, who is the face of it, who's going to be on social media, you need to be able to trust and take their advice and mentorship when it comes to, okay, it may take a little longer to sell, but we're not going to drop the price because this is a specific market. And I think that trust factor is very clear and evident and comes across and genuine from your side. And I think it's one of your strongest attributes.
Yes, I'm very, very loyal to my clients. I've actually been in situations where I didn't take business because I was loyal to certain clients. And, it's crazy to think that you in this business you would walk away from another opportunity. And it's funny. You do learn from that as well. I walked away from a client in the past who was a small time nobody and became a huge developer, and now I'm like, oh my god. So it does happen, but that was me being loyal to the clients I was working with, and I knew that I couldn't service that person the way I needed to. I might have dropped the ball, and I might have not done it properly at the time because I was also, in a high of life and not really thinking about the future. But I think it's very important when you're building a relationship, when you're working with someone, for them to understand that you got their best interest. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, David, I think this has been amazing. Thank you for unveiling and sharing with us the things that most people are curious about but do not hear. Right. Yeah. Anytime you go to a real estate conference or people want to find out about, you don't see this side, right? The actual side of the day to day, the ups and downs, the personalities that you have to manage. And we really appreciate you coming on our podcast and talking about this. Once again, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you having me on this podcast, and I'm excited to see what else the future holds for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Go first deal. We'll do some tequila shots.
Let's do it.